Right, hey everybody. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the Orchestra MetaEngine to do a really elegant and scalable end-to-end data pipeline. So we're going to take data from source, and then we're going to load it to S3, and then we're going to load it from S3 to Databricks, and then we're going to transform it using dbt. And the big thing here to note is that everything is going to be declarative apart from the business logic. Okay, so let's start with the data loading step. So in this case, I've got a script called load SFTP data. You can see at the top there are a few parameters that we need to set, and it's quite interesting because when it comes to environment variables in Databricks, you either have to set these in the notebook themselves, obviously, or you trigger them sort of via the API. If you trigger them via the API, if you set them via the API, use this little dputils.widgets.get. So it's a little bit like os.getenv, just not quite the same. The other thing is, like, we're going to need some secrets, right? I'm going to be triggering stuff from Orchestra. I'm going to be going back to Orchestra, sending Orchestra information. So to do that, you should basically set these either by interacting with like a key vault, which is, definitely the best thing to do. Otherwise, you can use this sort of like CLI syntax. I think it's Databricks secrets, put secret, and you put the scope and then the name of the secret. Cool. I'm not going to do that. Well, okay. I'm just going to put in a fake secret. Cool. And then basically what we have is a few different functions. So I've got a function that's going to upload a file to S3, and again, that's using some secrets that I've set so that I can interact with AWS. I've got another function which is going to send a little bit of information back to Orchestra, so we know what's happening. But the real bulk of this file is this sort of mocked function that simulates fetching data from an SFTP server. So, if we were doing this live, like obviously you wouldn't mock the function. You'd write something that could fetch data. But the point is that like there's a very important parameter here, which is the file path, which you can think of as like the key. So let's say your SFTP server has got like 10 files on it, and they're called like shipments, orders, customers, or whatever. As long as this business logic is sort of like robust enough to handle like ingesting those little bits of data, like all you have to do is trigger one file, and then that can basically go into the orchestrator. So that's the first bit. Now I'm going to show you the second bit. Okay, so in this second step, what we will have done is move all of the data from source to S3. But that doesn't mean you have anything in Unity Catalog. To create a Delta table, you still have to load data from S3 to Unity. So to do that, I've written a very simple function. And again, we're parameterizing this with the file path. You'll see that we've not parameterized the date, but you would probably want to do that because otherwise you won't be able to incrementally load stuff. But you can see that, let's say in the step before we create like a shipments file, that would hopefully be under some sort of like shipment directory. So you can pass this parameter all the way through the pipeline. And, it's pretty simple. I've just got this unnecessary explode step because my JSON is, not the perfect format. But, the final element, which is the key one, is here, which is that we're going to write a Delta table. Okay, so that's basically it. Next, I'm going to show you what the dbt project looks like. Cool, so this is my DBT project, and it's really, really simple. I actually really just have this single staging folder, and I've got some very basic SQL that is literally just selecting from a customers table. Order lines is very similar, but the key is here is that we're going to send all of this SQL down to Databricks, and we're going to orchestrate it with Orchestra. So let's head to Orchestra, and I can show you what that looks like. Cool. So this is the final output, and I'm going to show you what this looks like to build. So let's take a look at that first data loading step. In this case, we're going to run a node, which is going to fire a notebook. Now, Databricks have been quite clever, depending on how you look at it, where they have this like API endpoint called one-time run. It basically is just like a massive endpoint. You can send it anything, and it will trigger kind of anything in Databricks. So one of the things we're going to trigger here is a notebook task. And you can see that I've got a few parameters here, ones that you'll recognize from before. So I'm passing through this Orchestra task run ID that's going to get inserted dynamically. If you need to add that, you can sort of do that. You can sort of do that here. That will copy the value to the clipboard. The other important thing is to make sure that you have the right notebook path and the right sort of task key. But the real beauty here is in this matrix.value step. So what we're doing here is we've actually set a matrix. So you can see that by the extra little cards behind. And the matrix allows you to run that notebook many, many times in parallel. So as long as you can build these like modular components, you can have a really nice pipeline. Another really nice thing to do, which we don't support just now, but we probably should, is you can fetch the configs from Databricks. So the reason we don't support it yet, I guess, is because obviously you can take the data from a Delta table, but it's not a transactional table. Really, we want the Postgres Neon stuff here. So if I have a look at my catalog again and go to here's my metadata, let's say you had like 1,000 tables, all could be in different formats, all could be in different destinations, right? You could pull this data in the first step of your Orchestra pipeline, and then you could pass that as your matrix. And in that case, the syntax would be slightly different. But you basically just set that to be a different value. So in the next step, we're basically going to do the same thing. Again, we have the same matrix, but you could set it dynamically. And again, the sort of parameters here look very, very similar. And the beauty of this is that Orchestra it's just code. So if you need to add some more tables, just do that. As long as your modular component is capable of pulling in more data, which it should be, you'll be good to go. And then of course the final bit is DBT. So again, it's pretty straightforward. I have a DBT Databricks profiles.yaml configured, and then I'm just going to run DBT build. And again, you can see how simple that is to set up from a code perspective. It's literally just this block here, and a lot of this isn't even actually required. Okay, computer's looking a bit funny. Let's see what happens. Cool. So this is what it looks like when you run everything. So if I head to Databricks and have a look at the job runs, you'll see that these have all been submitted in parallel. And they've all run in parallel. So if you're using Databricks serverless compute, this is a really, really nice way to sort of horizontally spread all your jobs, because they're going to run really quickly, and they're not going to be interdependent. And you can see here that in this case, we've ran the customers.json. In this case, we've done the shipments.json. And then again, we've processed these from S3 to Unity. And then finally, we've got our lovely logs from dbt, and Orchestra shows you the full end-to-end lineage. In this case, a very, very simple dbt DAG, but an end-to-end one nonetheless. So yeah, this is basically how you can leverage Orchestra to build a sort of metadata-driven orchestration layer on top of Databricks, using minimal code and requiring minimal configuration. In terms of the business logic you need to write here, really you just need the business logic to move the data, so you can write that once, and then you need a notebook to load data from object storage to Databricks, which again, that should really just be written once. Obviously, then you need your SQL logic and your dbt model, but then when it comes to stitching everything together, this is it. And this is going to do triggering, polling, error handling. You can use Orchestra to restart stuff from failed. We've got alerting built into here. All of this metadata is sort of gathered automatically. So yeah, hopefully, you find this interesting. By all means, you don't need to use Orchestra to do this. You can of course use dynamic DAGs in any orchestrator. You can even do it in Databricks workflows. But the amount of work required to make that work, I believe, is significantly greater than this. So yeah, if this was interesting, leave some links in the comments. But yeah, please give us a like and a share, and see you soon.